It is my great honor and pleasure to introduce Miss Gloria H. Reese, the editor of this amazing project, who is going to give us an overview of when Black starts to crack. Also, my mom.
Well, hello, Dr. LaTanya Reese Miles, my daughter. Thank you so much, first of all, for moderating this event for us. And I want to say welcome to everybody, to thank you for coming out to celebrate this occasion with us, with me and the contributors. We only have, I think, 9 of the contributors available to be with us today. And I want to thank each of them, whether present or not, because we are recording, and I will share the video with others, for lending their voice to this project. And so I'll share with you a little bit about my thinking when I thought about pulling this book together. I want to start, first of all, with the title. So if I could see slide 1, LaTanya. If you could share that on the screen. And so I thought about the title because if you have the book and you've read this is, I think, part of the introduction. And many of us have heard, I'll read it for the benefit of some of those who are on the phone and actually do not have the benefit of seeing the screen. Many of us have heard the idioms, Black don't crack or good Black don't crack. Usually the phrase refers to the fact that a person of African descent does not look their chronological age. It also refers to resilience, that in the face of tragedy or overcoming obstacles, the person emerged looking pretty good. The downside of this ideology is that we tend to overlook the cracks that are forming right in the front of our eyes, especially as it relates to family members in general and parents in particular. And so that was kind of the basis of me coming up with a title, because we do celebrate the fact that because of the melanin that is in our skin, that we tend not to age chronologically. Our appearance does not match our chronological age sometimes. But I think it's important for us to be able to understand that even though we're resilient, we're not unbreakable, And so the title really addresses the issue that as we begin to age, or whatever causes the cracks to form in our lives, because there are natural formations of cracks in our lives, It could be because of mental health unwellness. It could be due to physical disabilities, and give ourselves the liberty and the freedom to be able to say, I'm not doing well. I need some self-care. If we're always trying to be strong and believing that we are so resilient and that we cannot show any vulnerability, then that leads to unhealthiness. And so that was the reason why basically the title chose me, as opposed to me choosing the title. I wanted us to have freedom, liberty. It's okay to not be doing well. It's okay to have to do some self-care. It's okay to take a moment to just be able to renew yourself. And so that's the reason why I chose the title. And then basically I wrote the book because 3 main reasons. I had 3 main reasons for pulling the book together. And I think that many of you may or may not know that I am an adult child caregiver of my 95-year-old mother. It was unplanned. I had not given any thought to it. I think neither had she. I just ended up in that position by default. And I was unprepared. I was just totally and completely unprepared for the job and the responsibilities of being a caregiver. And so the first 5 years were really fairly easy for us, but then after that. So LaTanya, if you could show us slide number 2. So I felt that as I was going through my challenge, that it would have been beneficial to me if I had heard other stories. I didn't know any other people who identified themselves as being caregivers. Um, we just took on the task just kind of arbitrarily. And so I thought that while I was going through my experience, it would have been helpful to have other people share their stories so that I'd know that the things that I was going through was okay. You know, it's okay to go through it, or other people have shared experiences, or they have experienced this. And maybe you should think maybe there's a urinary tract infection, or maybe you should talk to the doctor, or, you know, things of that nature. So in the book, in the introduction, I said that I believe that some anecdotal stories, like the ones included here, would have helped me to understand that I am not alone on this journey, that there are others who are experiencing similar situation. And these stories would have shed some light on how others handle their challenges. I am certain they would have made me more compassionate. You know, there are stories in there about how family, in the book, about how families shared the responsibilities, or how the mental state of the parent when they were going through being cared for, just how they thought about it. So I think if I'd known these things, it would have made it a little softer for me. It wouldn't have been so difficult for me. And then my second reason was that I had a theory. And so my theory was that in my community, we tend not to institutionalize our parents. For the most part, we view Asian parents as our elders, and when they transition, they become our ancestors, right? So I was like, you know, I didn't have a really large sample pool of this. This is what I felt. This is what maybe 4 or 5 people had shared with me. But that was my theory. I think that for us, we do tend to take care of our parents as they age in place. We don't want to institutionalize them. I think part of that is because of our distrust of the healthcare system, putting them in nursing homes. You know, we don't feel comfortable doing that, right? And so I decided that, okay, this is my theory, but is there any evidence to support this theory? And so then I decided I needed to do some research. And I was surprised to find, you can give me the next slide. I was surprised to find how much research is available out there that focus specifically on African-American family caregivers. And some of the research goes back as far as 1997. I think I saw some that was 1993. So I thought this was a new phenomenon. I thought it was my idea, my original idea, but people have been actually researching on this for a while. And so here's one researcher who said that the culture of African-American families often stresses the importance of caring for family members within the home and avoiding institutional care, suggesting the essential role of caregiving for those with chronic illness. And this was Nancy Thornton, who did this research in 2011, but she was actually citing from other researchers who had done this research in 2004. And if I could have the other one. So another researcher said, historically, African-American informal family networks have served as social service systems, welfare systems, and community-based intervention systems. As such, cultural socialization in the African-American community helps create beliefs and attitudes about caring for dependent others in the family. And so this is research that was done in 2005, but you know, again, she's citing and referencing research that was done in 1991 and 1993. So this is a phenomenon that is happening in our community, and it's not really just about aging. It could also be mental health issues. One of the contributors in the story writes about how her mother's first mental health episode was when she was 9 years old, and how she ended up caring for her mother starting in her mid-20s, and she's still doing it, and she's now mid-40s. Okay, so I also think about the fact that we have adult caregivers who are taking care of parents who have substance abuse issues, who have illnesses that impacted them because of substance abuse issues. And so, I think there's a lot that we can address as it relates to us beginning to find wholeness and wellness in our community. And the fact that we can be okay with the fact that we have chosen to take care of our families within their homes or our homes. Some of us will move in with the parent or have the parent come in and move in with us, provide resources for them to make sure that they're well taken care of. So again, those were my reasons. Oh, the other one, my last one, I'm sorry, were resources. And so the resources, I wanted to provide some resources to individuals, but they're specific to my area. They're either specific to the state of Virginia or to my city in Alexandria. But I would suggest and recommend, if you're looking for resources, that you reach out to maybe your local office of aging. They will direct you to places where you can go and find some resources. The few resources that I found was the Home Rehabilitation Loan Program, which actually is a program that my daughter found that rehabilitated my mother's home because of her age and income level. And they came in and did a complete rehabilitation of the home. And then one of the things that I talk about this in the book that I found was the City of Alexandria Real Estate Tax Relief Program. And it's actually, it's for elderly and disabled persons. And you can qualify for it at age 65. And when I found out about it from my mother, she was 85 years old and was on a payment plan. And the payment plan was in arrears. And so for 20 years, she was paying taxes that she didn't really have to. So, look into those resources. And then the Commonwealth Coordinated Care Plus waiver actually allowed her to qualify for Medicaid. So those were just some of the ones that I discovered. So yeah, again, thank you all for coming and being here with us. Thank you to the contributors, and I'm looking forward to questions, and I'm looking forward to hearing from the contributors and also the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Mom. I just wanted to highlight a few things. It's so important that you're able to provide historical and social and cultural context for parental caregiving in the Black family. Oftentimes when people talk about communities who are supporting, who are family oriented, it is though Black people are not part of that. So thank you so much for bringing that to the fore. I also wanted to acknowledge a comment that Dr. Thomas put in the chat, which is, what is the impact on transference of wealth when caregiving is uncompensated expense? So in other words, if this is something that folks are inclined to do, but aren't receiving, any kind of financial compensation for it, that's actually going to take away from the wealth and from the income. So something to think about. And as you mentioned, Grandma paying taxes unnecessarily.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it definitely is something to think about. And the Biden-Harris administration is supposed to be, they put funding available for family caregivers. Now, how you access that is based on your state. So I would suggest that you get in contact with your representative or your senator and ask them how the money is being dispersed and how you can benefit from that money, because every state is going to do it differently, because that is one of the issues that they brought out in the 2022 survey that they did on family caregiving. And so there's a report available, and you'll find that in the book, that talks about financial compensation to family caregivers.
Great. And once again, just want to thank everyone who's coming into the space now. So excited to have you here, be a part of this celebration. We are going to transition now to hearing directly from some, not all, but some of the contributors. So just going to spotlight them right now, and we will ask them some questions as well. Okay. Hang on. There we go. Yes, your face is going to be right up here. Who am I missing?
Lisa,
Marcia? Lisa Moore?
yes.
Anyone?
There's,
Ah,
let's see.
okay. Am I overlooking any other contributor?
Raise your hand.
This is
Do you have Dorothy? Oh yeah, there's Dorothy.
all righty.
I lost my list of people.
Okay. Mom, I'm going to take you off so that we can add Dorothy.
Okay.
All righty, here we go. Hi, everyone. Once again, like my mother said earlier, you all look so beautiful today. So I just wanted to make sure to acknowledge that. Here's my first question, though. Why did you decide to contribute to this project? I'm sure you were doing other things. What was it about this particular project that made you decide to raise your hand and be involved? And I'm going to open that up for anyone who wants to answer that.
I'll start. I'm
Go for
Shimoda.
it.
And
Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. And I want to make sure everyone introduces themselves. I forgot that part as well. But Shimoda, please fully introduce yourself.
And Latanya, put Dion Mitchell in. I'm sorry. She's
okay. I think part of the problem is that
you have
we are running out of spots.
You have two Dorothys. I'm one, but I think Tony, who you have here, she must have signed in under my name or something, but she's not.
With the hand
has
raised.
her hand raised. Yeah, you can take her out. I guess something in the sign in. Yes, there we go.
And then are you able to add Dion?
Dion Mitchell.
Yes.
How's this?
There you go.
All right, Shimoda, so my apologies.
so you want me to introduce myself?
Yes, please.
Shimoda of Shimoda Accessories. I live in Harlem, New York. And I was a caregiver for my mom and actually my sister also. My mother passed away about a year ago. And I'm an artist. I make jewelry and fiber art. And some of my work is in the African American Museum in DC in the gift shop. And the reason why I wanted to contribute is because when I was dealing with my mom, taking care of my mother full time, so many other people I know, my friends, family was going through the same thing. And, and you can be alone in the situation if you're not talking to other people. You could feel that, you're just alone. And I did reach out to support groups and that type of thing, which is very important. So with the book, people can read and say, oh, okay, it's not me. I can reach out, or I can, I can talk to other people about the situation. So that's why, I decided to contribute to this book, which is a great book.
Thank you so much. And why don't we just go around then to make sure everyone introduces themselves and say why they decided to participate. And Reverend Brenda, I'll call on you next.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I found myself in a very interesting place. My name is Brenda Grimiller. I am a minister. I'm out of Ovalone, Ohio, and I'll put that much there. But I was in the midst of, I cared for my mother. We had cared for my mother. We had to move to the point of, at some point after she'd been with us our whole married life, she got to the point where she could not be at home because they said, if you can't provide 24-hour care, then that's what's going to be needed at this point. So we had to shift that thing that we have in our mind that says we don't put our older people in nursing homes. My grandmother never went to a nursing home. My mother cared for her. That's just not what we did. And we had to, and we did it. And my mother looked up one day and said, you should have did this a whole long time ago. And that's a whole nother story, but it was extremely precious. In the last 18 years of months of her life were spent in a local nursing home that was absolutely wonderful, but we'll leave that aside. But for this particular project, the call came in and my husband said, you should submit something. And I went, okay. But I was in the midst of caring for not an elder, but an equal in age, my cousin. And I looked up and realized, you're it. You're the one at this point. There's no one older than us. And it was a tough situation. We were a distance from each other, but I was the one. His sister was in a nursing home for memory care. And so it was on me. It was me, my family, my husband, and I, and it was hard, but I had to grab for, and my participation in this book was really about I remember as clear as day, my brain went, black don't crack. What you mean? We all know that terminology, black don't crack. And then this word came up out of me, and that pulled on looking at what happens, what really does happen when black begins to crack, and what does it transform itself into? And that's where my piece in this book kind of looks at. And it was really at one point, it was more of an encouragement at first to caregivers. And then it went from that to, in fact, highlighting the beauty that still yet remains amongst the broken pieces. And so my piece is one of the earlier pieces in the book. And Gloria, I thank you so much I thank you for taking my piece, because I gave you what God gave up out of me. And it was really to kind of say, okay, no, they can't do that, and the other. However, what do we have here? What has been, if this didn't come out of nothing, all of our experiences, our folks, our loved ones, they have still yet a lot in them, and they've come from a lot. Yes. And to somehow keep a highlight on those pieces, that's one of the things that could encourage us on to keep on and care on through the tears. I sat in the mirror and cried over this piece. Just tears were coming down my eyes. Tears were coming down because I knew my cousin, and he was strong and able, and I watched him in a nursing home. Basically, I watched him kind of lose complete control. And it was so hard for him. And I knew it was hard for him. I could see it being hard for him because he couldn't pull up and that's what happens. It's hard for all of our loved ones because they can't do what they have done before. So I participated because I could not participate. And I was so thankful that I was accepted to participate. So there you go.
Thank you. Thank you for what you shared with us.
How about you, Dr. Kamea? Would you like to chime in and introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. Great to be here. I'm excited about this book. Kudos to you, Gloria, for your vision and leadership. I'm Kumea Shorter-Good, and I'm a clinical community psychologist, currently working self-employed as a consultant doing diversity, equity, inclusion, justice work. And it's interesting because when Gloria, and I've known Gloria for some years back in California, and then we're both back here in the DC area, greater DC area. when Gloria mentioned the book, my immediate thought was, okay, I'll get my daughter's mother-in-law who just lost her 101-year-old mother, and she had cared for her in home for 15 years. And Belinda, in fact, did contribute, but is not here, unfortunately, this evening. And so supported Belinda. And then Gloria said, well, what about you, Kamea? And it's interesting because I really had not thought about making a contribution. I moved back to DC from Southern Cal 11 years ago. And in many ways, largely to be closer to mom, but mom and I had a complicated relationship. And Gloria, after you and I had that conversation, I sat and thought, and I wrote one line, which was, my mother and I were never close. And that became the first sentence of my piece. And I realized that I did have something to say, that it might not be easy to say, that it might not be sort of it's not sort of sweetened over with everything was cool and it was all good. That's not our relationship. It wasn't a bad relationship, but it was complicated. And I think in the end, part of why I decided to contribute was I realized it actually was healing for me to sort of sort through some of what happened and how my ability and capacity to be in town with my mother and to serve as a caregiver in her latter years was really very healing for me and healing for our relationship. Even though there wasn't like a magical 360-degree turnaround, it was soothing and restorative for me that when she passed, I'd had this opportunity. So thanks for the opportunity, Gloria.
Oh, thank you for your contribution, Kamea. Because it also freed me to really open up about my relationship with my mother. You know, reading your story said, oh, you know, there's some issues that, you know, you've just overcome and you can be vulnerable and share it. Kamea shared her story. Yeah, so thank you.
Miss Dorothy, how about you?
Yes. Okay, thank you so much. At first, I want to thank Gloria for the invitation and the many conversations that we had, and I realized, yes, I do have something to contribute. I did not care for my mother all the way to the end of her life. However, I cared for my mother right after she became a widow, after 54 years of marriage, and so I became a caregiver, surrogate spouse, but more than anything, she was afraid in her life at that time. And so the caregiving was caregiving, even though it was very different. She was not unhealthy. She was not ill at the time. She was on medication for high blood pressure. And, you know, as we get older, as we know, the black does begin to have cracks, not as severe, but more or less, I was there as a caregiver that in many ways, but mainly I took a surrogate spouse position. Financial was one of the biggest areas because she was afraid and had never, ever, ever taken care of herself in a financial way. And as you know, in the country that we live in, even Dr. Martin Luther King had a statement about, you know, the medical system and the financial system in this country. If you are not equipped in it, and especially in my mother's case, who at that time, she was a woman well into her late 70s at the time of my father's death, she knew nothing about finances, and she didn't have anyone advocating for her once she would go to the doctors. And I am currently still a caregiver for my own son, who is in his 40s, and I go to every single doctor's appointment with him. Otherwise, unnecessary medications had side effects. So there's so much to caregiving and how we as African and African American women, Black women, are constantly caregivers in our families in some way or another. And I say, you know what? This is a very, very important topic, because at some point or another, and sometimes even young African-American women are caregiving to parents with mental illnesses and lots of disabilities. They're caregiving, and we don't call it that. But overall, we're caregiving. We're caregivers for our communities. We're doing it in so many different ways. So I said, of course I want to contribute because of these experiences in my own life. And I, to this day, am working with families because I am a corporate and tax professional and I have a master's in spiritual psychology. I meet people all the time who are struggling in the legal system through adult protective services who have been turned in for some type of adult abuse. And, you know, the banks, everyone has now gotten involved in looking into our personal businesses and seeing what's going on. What are you doing? Are you abusing this senior? And sometimes it's overly abuse. But, you know, I want to thank you, Gloria, because I think this is something in the community that we need to work out as well. We need to understand the more. We don't have the legal access all the time, and we do need the advocacy, you know, in the medical industry as well. So I'm grateful. I'm really grateful for this project and for what you've done. And I think it may be just a few, one of the few pieces of information out there about on this subject. You know, I went looking for it, looking to see, as you said, there's a few, but not much. But we've been doing this maybe over 400 years. We are the experts in it.
Definitely.
Definitely. Absolutely. Thank you, Dorothy.
You're welcome.
Ms. Marcia, would you mind introducing yourself?
Thank you. Greetings to everyone. My name is Marcia Ellis, and I live in the DC area also. And I also want to publicly thank Gloria for this opportunity to reflect and share as we did in all of our stories. And I was just reminded this morning as I looked back over the stories, the impact of having these stories in one place like this, because after reading them all again, this morning I was sitting down with my mom, taking over from the 8 at 7 this morning, and I picked up the book and started reading it, and I just felt so much lighter. I mean, it just really made me feel like I was surrounded by lots of kindred spirits who are on the same journey as me, as us. Yes. And I wrote to one of my sisters and I said, you know, I just looked at the book and it was, I feel so lifted today. So that was the immediate power of it, you know, going back to it again. I believe in the power of storytelling. I believe storytelling is so powerful. And I've worked in different settings, particularly with women sharing their stories, women who probably didn't think they had a story worth telling. And then how they were so empowered by their own stories, and then the opportunity to share those stories and also to receive those stories back. And I think what the book does, it gives us not only opportunity to share the story, but to receive them back in the form of the book so that we can, you know, not only share it, but, you know, fuel ourselves, nurture ourselves with it, nourish ourselves with it when we need to. So I believe in that. About 10 years ago, we walked the journey of a very dear friend who passed away. Shimoda, you might have known Heather Ampofo. And we formed a circle of love, we meaning a group of us who were friends of hers, mostly other artists, really. We formed a circle of love around her, and we kind of, you know, took the lead from her family, but her family gave us permission to do whatever we needed to do to help. We even would come in and stay with her at times when the family members could not do that. And I was with her sister when she actually took her last breath down in Hampton. But I really, really loved and really began to see how important it was to kind of form in a very intentional way a family, a support, we call it a love circle to form that amongst each other, so we can walk the walk with the families and help each other, because you find that not only are you helping the family, but so many people are on a journey somewhere along the line of this journey that other people, we all need some help. Because as people are saying, I don't know why, it's really strange that we didn't really think about this time coming. My mom and I moved in together when she was younger and was driving, and we bought this house together, and I never once thought, one day that mom would need me in a different way, or that our relationship would be different. I never really thought about it. Then, so over the years, of course, it came. And in our case, fortunately, we do have, I'm one of originally 8, my brother passed away 7, and we all are in it together. And so I really want to write, and I certainly also let all my siblings know about the opportunity to write, because I know that we all have our own story around it, around the caregiving and our relationship with our mother. And so everybody had an opportunity that, so a couple of my other siblings also wrote. But, so yeah, I wanted to share. I also found it healing to write. I always find reflecting and writing to be healing. And so I echo that feeling that it's also healing. And, Gloria and I, Gloria, we've been talking over the years, sharing resources, asking each other questions about, what do you know about this, what do you know about that? And so we had this conversation going. So it just seemed really perfect. I certainly was very encouraging about this book, and found that it would be something I knew that other people needed. I mean, no one that I knew really thought about it in a very structured way. And we all were asking each other the same question. So, that's why I really do thank you for taking the leadership to pull it together and to pull us together to share our thoughts, so that we can, invite others in on the secrets. It might seem like it's a big secret that at some point, at some point we all get older, and we won't be able to do what we used to do, and so we will need. My mother is 99. She turns 100 in April.
Wow. All right.
And so
it's
and much has changed. Some has changed since 2 years ago when I made the submission. And the biggest change, I'll say very quickly, has been in the caregiving side. We have been able, I think, for a resource you did give me, Gloria, where I did begin to then plow through Virginia's resources, and was able to get my mother also qualified for Medicaid, which then allowed us to have help from an agency in AIDS. And of course, that's always a story of meeting and finding the right people. We feel so blessed right now that we have a really good team of aides, and that we can just they walk in, we walk away, we come back, and they stay overnight, which was the biggest thing for us, because I'm 71 and all others are 70s, and the idea of staying up during the night was really hard. So we have an arrangement where the aides stay overnight, and we do all the care divided up during the day, and it works for the most part. So anyway, so I'm very grateful.
Okay.
And
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. And then Miss Lisa, right? You also one of the contributors. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to see you. It's wonderful seeing all you beautiful queens on this call. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. And thank you so much, Gloria. When you contacted me to ask me if I would contribute, I have to be totally honest, and I was nervous. And I was nervous because I had put in a box all my feelings and kind of put a lock on them. And this was actually quite therapeutic for me to unlock the feelings and go to a deep place that I had put away after the passing of my grandmother. So it was scary. It was scary for me to write this, because I wanted to be able to say something that could possibly help somebody, but I also knew that it was going to unravel this quilt that I had that I had put together that was in a perfect, a perfect place, and it was going to unravel some stuff. And it was wonderful to see and be able to do it and be able to breathe after it.
Wow, that's deep.
So
Yeah.
I am so thankful for it. And I have to admit, I have been purchasing and gifting copies of this book like crazy. And I just want to read you something that I received this morning from one of my friends. He said, what a great book, because he was taking care of his mom. And he said, what a great book. It gives me great confirmation that my sisters and I did what was right. I only wish I knew how to tell you how much you helped us, especially when mom got turned down for the hospice 5 weeks before her transition. It all worked out. We have tremendous memories and life lessons, no regrets. Now my wife and her 3 siblings will benefit from this book as we are caring for my mother-in-law now. So I know that this book is going to help so many who feel like, they're doing it by themselves and may not know the answers or may not know if what they're doing is right, when really, as long as you're doing something, it's right.
That's true. That's true.
As long as you're doing something. And so I just thank you so much for the opportunity to be a part of this. Because it's just an amazing piece. And this is my coffee table book.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And then we have Miss Dion.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dion Mitchell. And thank you, Gloria, for inviting me to be a part of this book. When Gloria reached out to me, I told her that I don't think I have anything to contribute. I have never personally been a caregiver, but I was excited to tell her about my sister-in-law who took care of my mother-in-law for so many years, and she was her caregiver. So I asked Gloria if I could reach out to her because I remember she was journaling when she was taking care of my mother-in-law. And I read some of the stories and the comments and the challenges and all the things she was writing about. She let me read some of the things that she was writing about, and I thought they were awesome. At that time, during that time, her writing was so good, and I told her then, you should share this. As a matter of fact, I was trying to encourage her to write a book, turn her journal into a book. And that was many years ago. And of course, she put it on the shelf and forgot about it. But what I do, I write poetry, and I'm a spoken word artist, and I've been writing poetry for many years. So long story short, I talked my sister-in-law into submitting a story that she had written, like I think 2 days before the deadline, Gloria. And
yes.
yeah, I know it was short. And then I remembered during one of the times that she was taking care of her mother, she was having a really tough time. It was a bad day for her. And she asked me if I would write something for her. She said, Dion, can you write me a poem? She said, I'm going through some things and just write something for me. And I did. And the poem that I wrote it as if she was talking to her mother, what I think that she would say to her as she sat by her bed every day. And I gave her the poem, and she really loved it. So like her journal, though, I tucked that poem away. I gave it to her, but I tucked it away and put it aside. Didn't think about it until I talked with Gloria. And I came back to Gloria and said, Gloria, I did write something. It's not a story. It was a poem that I wrote for my sister-in-law. And would you be interested in including it in your book? And thank you, Gloria, for selecting it to be included in the book. But
I think my answer was absolutely.
Yeah, your answer was absolutely. But I want to say to all of the contributors and all of you queens here on this Zoom call right here, I love this book. I love the stories, and my friends and family who already purchased the book, I told them, be ready to go on a roller coaster ride, a journey that you won't forget. Because my emotions, and I think I'm gonna get emotional right now, my emotions were up and down reading these stories, beautiful stories, the challenges, the joys, everything, the good days, the bad days. I enjoyed reading it, and it was really close to my heart. That was a subject when I was looking at the titles before I started reading the book. This one that grabbed me because I'd never heard this before. Once a woman, twice a child. That is so true. I'd never heard that before. Other people have heard that. Yeah, you never heard that before. But just reading that, it just tells the story right there in that title. Once a woman or a man, you know, twice a child. It was so true. So I thank you all for agreeing to submit something to the book, because it truly helped me. It opened my eyes, and I just want to thank you all.
Yeah, that was Alice Brown's creative contribution. And
beautiful title.
It was a very, all of them were nice. I mean,
yes, all of them.
I mean, all of them. Every last one of them brought a reaction from me that was really very warming and affirming. It was just great. Thank you all for the stories. I just thank you all for it. Yeah. Yeah.
Have we heard from all the contributors that are present? Did I overlook anyone?
And may I say too, my sister-in-law, Bonita Mitchell, wanted to be on this call, but she had an emergency she had to attend to, and she apologized that she was not able to be on the call tonight.
Okay, because Bonita was one of the ones. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think we have everyone.
May I just say,
Great.
this is Barbara, Gloria, and I just wanted you to know that I did join the call. You know, I'm not very tech savvy, but I'm here because I always love supporting you.
Thank you, Barbara Turner. I appreciate it. Barbara is in Santa Monica, California. Is that where you are? You might be traveling. Are you in Santa Monica?
Yes, I'm in Santa Monica. I haven't gone to the ashram in India yet, but soon I will. But I love hearing from all of you women. The one thing I would say, just listening to you, is be sure to spread the word to other people, because with my own mother, before she passed, I didn't know the signs. You know, your mother is always so, you know, my mom, independent and vital, and I didn't see the signs soon enough. I should have gotten her care sooner or help sooner, you know. So please share with others what to look for, what to do. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you. We actually are going to open it up for questions to our contributors, and already Dr. Thomas has their hand raised, so I'll go ahead and call on you first.
I had my tech issues as well. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say this. Wow, I feel like I've been in a master class. I'm here in the kitchen cooking. And that's the power of what has happened with the pandemic. It has disrupted our communication channels. I'm not looking at CNN. I'm listening to you sisters. I don't know what listserv I got on. I am so happy I'm cooking in the kitchen with you queens. It was beautiful what you're doing. And the work I do is to take this kind of authentic conversation into our Black barbershops and beauty salons, because that too is the place where we transfer this kind of wisdom. And I'll just end by saying, I've known Dr. Kamea for a long time, but I've never seen her with the other crowns that she gets inspiration from. Kamea, thank you so much. Maybe you got me on this list, sir. I'll turn the floor back over to y'all. Thank you very much. I feel like it was a blessing.
I did. I'm so glad you're here, Dr. Thomas. Just for those of you who don't know, Dr. Stephen Thomas is a professor at the University of Maryland in the School of Public Health, the director of the Center for Health Equity, did I get it right? And a national leader around correcting health disparities for African Americans. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Thomas.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas.
Honor and a pleasure.
Anyone else have a question for our
Let me just say, I'm
esteemed
hearing
writers?
background, and then I'm going to be quiet because I put these scallops on. But let me say this as a brother watching my sisters care for my loved ones. And the brothers need to tell their stories too, but they need a creative space like you've created here. Shame. Shame about hospice. But when we finally did it, it was like, why didn't we do this sooner? But then we didn't tell our neighbors about it. We didn't have the channels to communicate. It was the best thing we did. Now we can do that with these platforms like Zoom. I'm gonna be quiet now. I'm going back to my notes.
I do want to comment that I did invite some men to support the project, but none of them were willing. So there's the research shows that like a third of caregivers Black caregivers are men, a third of them, 2/3 are women. There's some disparity, but we need brothers to tell their stories though about caring for their parents. But some of the research showed that most men do not consider, even though they're doing the responsibilities of caregiving, they don't really classify themselves as a caregiver. They basically see themselves as being a devoted husband or a devoted son, but I'm not really a caregiver. Although they're handling finances, they're making sure that their health needs are being taken care of. So we do need to hear the voices of Black men and what it means to them to be caregivers of their parents. I would like to have that discussion with some men who are caregivers.
Once again, casting a net to see if anyone has a question. Rhonda? You have to unmute yourself though. There you go.
I figured out how to unmute. I was sitting here staring. I was like, I raised my hand. Now I can't say anything. Okay. First of all, I enjoyed this book on so many different levels. I enjoyed it because I fell into a situation where I needed a caregiver. I was in an accident and ended up losing my leg. So my husband became my caregiver. And during that time, I've gone through being in a rehab facility, being in the hospital, being home, going back, having problems. And I learned a lot going through it myself. And now it's years later, and all the skills that I acquired from going through all that, I'm using that now for my mother, because my mother fell and broke her L3-4-5 and lost the use of her leg. And the hardest part of it is that I'm here in Maryland. She's all the way in Ohio. And I was driving back and forth every week, staying for a week, coming back for a week, staying for 2 weeks and back and forth. And I wish I had this book to help me, I guess, gather my thoughts, gather the resources in a more concise way. If I had more thought beforehand, because I think, as we've all said, you don't plan. We did not plan for, how we were going to care for our parents when they became older, or accident happens and we fall into the category of it has to happen now. It wasn't a slow process of gathering the information that we needed to help us. So I say one thing, everything happens for a reason. We're all here for a reason. You're either here to share your knowledge, bring knowledge, or gain knowledge. Well, I have a little saying on my wheelchair. It says, lead, follow, or get out of the way. Sometimes some people hold up the progress of things. And when I say people hold up the progress of things, how many of have us reached out to what we thought was a resource, be it a social worker, be it a doctor, and was given the stonewall face? Well, I don't know what you're going to do, So this book is a great help, and it's information that I wish I could have had a long time ago. But thank you all for sharing. Thank you for your contributions. One part of the book that I say touched me was No One Told Me, I think it's called. What is it called exactly? It's called Things No One Told Me. And certain parts of that touched me and brought tears. So that's all I have to
Lisa's
say.
story.
Yes.
Don't you make me cry. I'm not gonna cry today.
It's okay to cry, Lisa.
But and I wrote that because we really don't think about just like you said, Rhonda, we don't plan for times and things like this. We just think everything is gonna be hunky-dory, wonderful, easy breezy, till the day we pass. But that's not the way it is. And so many times as I was going through this process with my grandmother, and I'm like, gosh, nobody told me about this, or I wish, somebody had told me, but you really don't, nobody's going to tell you really, unless they've gone through it and you have that close connection to them so that you will be able to know it, but ever since this book has come out, I have been telling everybody, everybody about this and the things that they need to plan for and to have these conversations. I've had the conversations with my kids and my grandkids, letting them know certain things. And so it's imperative that we share this information. We have to.
Oh, Lisa, you accidentally muted yourself.
Ooh, I don't know how I did that. I guess I was talking too much.
Well, we do have a lot of hands raised, so I'm going to go ahead and call on Louise Fleming. And Louise, you are muted. There you go.
Okay, I'm Louise, and Shimoda's my neighbor. She lives right around the corner from me. And I took care of my mother for 5 long years. And it was, there were some wonderful things about it, but it was grueling. It was very, very, very hard. And over the course of the past couple of years, as has been said by the ladies in this group, you have something going on with you in your own individual life, and then you open up and you see, well, your neighbor, your friend has some of the same things going on in their lives. But as I reflect, because my mother passed about a year ago, as I reflect upon it, I think about just in terms of the specifics of Black women, people of color, and I feel that my mother had so much stress, so much mental stress. And I personally feel that that contributed to her Alzheimer's. I really do. And the whole thing of mental stress is very unhealthy. And just really quickly, the whole thing of being a caregiver, I know of situations, I know Shimoda is familiar with this, that caring for someone can also make you sick. And I have seen situations where the caregiver, I had a friend who the sister was taking care of everybody. Sister was taking care of the mother, and then the sister died. And so someone else had to step in and take care of the mother. And myself, once my mother died, I got sick too. So I would just say, caregiver, take care of yourselves first. Stress, mental stress, and what people go through. By the way, I am going to get a copy of the book because I look forward to reading all of the stories in more detail. But I just think that just this living in the society, not to go off on a tangent, but stress is like NG. It's very, very, very bad. The day in, day out, year in, year out, over a lifetime, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, up into your 60s, And let me just say one last thing. I shared on my Facebook page, there was a woman who died at 71. She got Alzheimer's in her 50s. She was a Black woman, and she was the first Black woman that was hired by the CIA, was it the CIA, the Secret Service. And just everything, all the horrible things she went through, I'm sure contributed to her ill health. Thank you again for letting me speak, and I look forward to reading the book. And hi, Shimoda.
Well, we all want to thank you for raising this important issue. We also know that people of color are much more likely to experience high levels of stress. And we also have to factor in institutional racism that contributes to that stress. So thank you for bringing that up. Onyanike, did you have a comment or a question?
Thank you. This has been really helpful, and it's an emotional experience being on. Sister Shimoda invited me on, and I'm so grateful. I was introduced to the book yesterday, and I'm at the early stages of the caregiving journey, and I was so overwhelmed by these sudden, all these sudden events. We had a big fire, and we lost several family members, and so there was body, there's damage with my sister. Then she's going to come out. She's going to need long-term care, and nobody else is really available. So as a result of that, my mother had a stroke, and she now needs 24-hour care and supervision. And because they worked really hard during their lives, they don't fit any of the categories to be able to get programmed for caregivers, nor will they allow anybody in the house. So I had to put in my 2 weeks notice, and I'm moving 450 miles back into the home that I left when I was 18 years old on purpose. And I love my parents, but they're very, very strong-willed 80-plus-year-old people. And they want to be able to do everything on their own, and they can't. And so the struggle that we're having with this new transition is my mom is a grown, she's a parent toddler, she wants to carry all the power of the parent, but she really is limited in her body. So she does dangerous things like getting up and trying to walk where she doesn't have the balance and she really can't hold her body weight. And it's just scary. Everything is scary. It's like, Mom, no, don't do that. I got it. No, you don't. So I'm real grateful to just be on line with some women, some sisters who have been down this road that I'm beginning to walk. And I'm going to get, I'm definitely getting the book, and I'm getting it for my sister because we are sharing this load. My dad is really a strong man, and he has always protected his wife, always solved every problem. And now he's in his 80s and he can't solve this one. And he doesn't know how to not be in charge. And so it's just all the aspects of chat are really challenging. And it's just, I'm really grateful to just be able to say, oh, me too, to hear that I'm not by myself. And it's really important to hear that, as long as I'm doing something, I'm doing it right, because it feels like I'm not doing it right. Like everything is, pieces of right, but most of it is wrong. So thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Shimoda, for inviting me in so I could reach and hear all you sisters. That's it. Thanks.
I don't know if y'all saw, but this is I put in the chat, this is turning into a healing circle. Sounds like it was. Norma, did you want to add something to did you have a question or want to add something?
Yes, I have a question. I've ordered my copy of the book, but I haven't received it. So I don't know if the answer to my question is there, but I'm not a caregiver. However, I'm concerned about what should I be doing in case I need care. So I just, with some of the things that are going on with me, I can see myself in that position one day. And there are certain things I do and don't want to happen. So anyway, do you have any advice?
Yeah, Norma, that is
That
really
is-
a great question. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
And
a
Dorothy has
great
her hand
question.
raised too.
Norma, do you have a medical directive?
I don't think so.
Do you have
No,
It's
she
on my
doesn't
list.
have one.
It's on my, I may have filled one out years ago and it's on my list of things to do. So,
And so do you have a standard regular doctor that you see?
yes.
Okay, so what you need to do is, it's very simple. Sometimes you can find a medical directive online, or you can reach out to a legal person that you may know that works with Living Trust. What you might want to do is make sure you get a medical directive. Make sure you start talking to family members as to what it is you do or do not want to happen should you become incapacitated and not able to make decisions for yourself medically. And it might be wise to begin to talk with someone that you're very close to about your medical. Our parents didn't talk to us about medical, neither their finances. It's a healing process to be able to open up to someone like that, whether it's a spiritual director or someone, a minister, or just be directed to someone who specializes in that area. But opening up and talking about what it is you do or do not want, if you're not able to make those decisions for yourself, and trusting in someone that you trust. A medical directive and power of attorney will really, really be good for you, even if you don't have a living trust. But even if you get a living trust, that would be even better.
Yeah, I do have a living trust, but I don't think that's in there. My daughter has asked me to give her a medical directive, and she said, well, if you don't do that, at least write down what you want done. And it's been one of the things I've just put off and put off and put off. And so, and I guess what I'm partly asking is, what should I be concerned about? And, what should I be asking for? Because, I don't want to go to a facility, and neither do I want to live with her. So her and her husband. So just want to know, where do I go for what my options are?
Well, if you don't if you don't go to a facility and you don't go with her, but if you stay at home, if that's what you want, you need to let her know. Then there's care that can come in. I don't know what state you're in, but all of the states in the U.S. has various laws relevant to adult protective care, caregiving laws. So if you want to stay home, let her know, and either you'll get a caregiver that is a family member or non-family member, or nurse or nursing care.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How many of us are learning today, right? I just wanted to, Mr. Moda, I see your hand is raised, but I just wanted to acknowledge something that Angela put in the chat. She says, for those of us who do not have children of our own, but have become the default caregiver for a parent, how do we find a caregiver when we need one? Are we to assume our siblings and their children will care for us? The answer is no. I don't think we can assume that, but that's such a great question. Shimoda, you wanted to add something?
Wow, this is intense.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Because I had to write some notes what people were saying. Rhonda was talking about that she was driving or is driving back and forth. And on Nikkei, when we spoke yesterday, you was driving, but now you take the train back and forth. And Louise, at one point when her mother was alive, she was taking the bus and I think the train back and forth. So Gloria, this is what my question for you. Since your book is so amazing, have you thought about making it into an audio book, and that's something people can listen to while they go?
Wow.
I had not thought about that, but I certainly will give that some thought, making it an audio book. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So that people can listen to it while they are traveling, driving, in between. So yes, Thank you,
Okay.
Shirley. I will do that.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
But
okay, go ahead.
no, you go ahead because you're not done.
Okay, I'm gonna put a link for this support group that I'm in. It's the Black Family Caregivers group, and they have meetings once a month. And Marcia is in it also. And yeah, so I'm gonna share that link, and it's wonderful because they also have people talk about different subjects, the paperwork that the other woman, I forgot her name, was just talking about.
Dorothy.
Dorothy. They had somebody there speaking about that. And what else? And there was something else. Also, that I have a book. Taking care of my mom. I talked about her a lot and on social media, and I would take photos because she would do a lot of funny things. And since a lot of my friends was going through it, I wrote a book. It's called Sacred Stitches, The Art of Caregiving. And it's very artsy. And it's tips for stitching yourself together when caring for someone with Alzheimer's. But the person doesn't necessarily have to have Alzheimer's. It's really a caregiving book. And somebody mentioned something about journaling. And so there's pages in there that you can journal. And it talks about the paperwork that you should have in place. It talks about having a support, a team. I have my girlfriends was my support team. So the really knowing who you can call when you really want to vent and scream and shout. So like having that on hand, because sometimes it's really hard to figure that out when you're going through a tough situation. So so it's a book specifically.
And if you could put the title in the chat room to
I will.
everybody, Shalonda.
Okay. That was it. Thank you everybody for sharing. Wonderful.
Oh, absolutely. This has been so wonderful. One of the things that I do notice is that we do not plan for long-term care. And that's something that we need to begin to think about is, well, number one, of course, having all of your paperwork in order. First, even identifying what legal paperwork you need to have, but also identifying the person who you want to be your caregiver. Or just as Dorothy said with Norma's situation, is if you don't want to go into a nursing facility, you do not want to move in with your adult child, or you don't have an adult child. You don't have it, you may not be a parent at all, but it's important for you to let somebody know what your wishes are. You need to write them down somewhere. I haven't had this conversation with my daughter. My daughter told me when she was 15 that she wasn't going to take care of me, but she would find me a house with a white picket fence and make sure that I was taken care of in a manner in which I'm accustomed to. That's what she told me. So I'm banking on my grandson. Okay. I'm banking on my grandson. Or hopefully she has changed her mind over the years, right? But it's important for us to make a plan for because the reality is, we all are going to transition, okay? It may be due to illness. It may be due to aging. It could be a tragic accident. It could be anything. But what we need to put at the top of our list is our plan for what we want to have happen for us or with us or to us as we begin to come into a place of either incapacity or diminished ability, right? So my charge to everyone who is listening, all of us, whether we are caregivers or not, that it is important for us right now to begin to think about how we want to be cared for.
Along those lines, Gloria, one of the things that I have here is this book. It says Peace of Mind Planner. And it says it's important information about my belongings, business affairs, and wishes. You can get it off of Amazon. In here, in this one place, I have everything. And my daughter, who is the person who's going to take charge should something happen to me and my husband, knows exactly where this is and will not have to search anywhere in my house through all of these files I have in here to find exactly what she needs. So I highly recommend that everybody get some sort of, I don't care if it's a folder, a Redwell, something, put everything in that one location and let that one person know where it is.
Okay.
Because
and I think we put that a link to it in the chat.
Yep, we'll do.
It's in the chat.
No, I think Latanya did. Latanya did it already. Okay.
Girl, you are on it.
Yeah.
Irene, thank you so much for your patience. Dorothy, do you mind if we go to Irene really quickly?
Oh, no, I was just unmuting, just not to say nothing, but just.
Oh, okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm just really enjoying this, and thanks to my friend Kamea. I happen to be a resource. I'm called an applied gerontologist, and I am a professional caregiver. I work with families and individuals to assist them in the journey. There are not many of us who are geriatric care managers. Typically, they've come from social work and nursing. I have a different background, and over the years, I've been a family caregiver for both of my parents. I'm an only child and a geriatric care manager almost 20 years ago, when that specialty was really unknown, is what saved my life and well-being. We're the ones that can help you chart your course, look at the options available, and a resource of all sorts. Also, with the growing number of folks aging, there are all sorts of specialties that are growing around aging that people aren't aware of. And I'll just name one or two. Daily money manager, senior move specialist, again, daily money manager, elder law attorney. And so there's a lot out there. And I want to just share my book, only because Shimoda, it correlates with your title. My book is, and you can get it from Amazon, didn't mean to do this, but it's called Elder Care as Art and Ministry. And Elder Care as Art and Ministry. You can get in touch with me through Google, through my website, which is The Art of Elder Care. You can Google my name. Oh my goodness, you guys are, thank you, Kamea. But it's an overlooked resource. Spread the word, spread the word, spread the word. All of this cost, and someone earlier said something about they weren't a caregiver. Start thinking about caregiving in a broad way, not as giving necessarily direct hands-on care. I could go on, I'm going to be quiet, but get your legal affairs in order, get your healthcare affairs in order. And also, if you have children who are over 18, make sure that you have access to them. Thank you, Kamea. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for all those resources. We tried to capture as much as we could in the chat. Oh, Dorothy, Ms. Dorothy, you wanted to say something?
Yes, thank you so much, Irene, for what you just shared. In the state of California, there is a B&P code that's going to be developed for caregivers. It's in the plans for the state assembly. There'll be a bill being passed. It's being reviewed now. In the state of California, many African Americans are not aware of the funding that can be received for caregiving. Some people, they quit their jobs, they have retired, and there was no compensation for caring for their loved one in their family. Here in the state of California, they have IHSS, where it's lucrative, $2,000 to $3,000 a month income. caring for a family member, tax-free. So I think Gloria put a lot of links. She put links in the book. She gave you some research that's done. And I just encourage everybody to look in your state, look at the benefits that are available to you. Because here in the state of California, I have a friend who's on, Tony Gomez. She's a part of a group through Kaiser that is about to revolutionize the BNP through the business and professional codes, the career as medical advocates, caregivers. I think that, you know, we, what is it? We have not because we ask not, or we suffer from a lack of knowledge. And so many people have taken care of parents, quit their jobs, retired, was not compensated. Other groups are getting very wealthy from it. I mean, you can look, I mean, you can make or earn anywhere between $3,000 to $4,000 a month caring for a loved one, tax-free, if you live with them. If you don't live with them, then it's an income, it's a profession, and you will get a 1099 at the end of the year. And I'm speaking from California, but I don't know the laws in other states. But I had to go this journey, you know, because I have a legal background and I work with a lot of nonprofits and corporate and tax. So I had to learn this personally myself the hard way because no one talks about it. But I spread the word with everyone. And when I contributed to the book, I mainly contributed because I was there for my mother's financial purposes. She really was at a loss. We would be surprised how many of our parents don't know anything about the financial system, don't know what's out there for them. So I just charge us to begin to do the research and look for resources, because we don't have to suffer. We suffer sometimes needlessly for the lack of research and knowledge and talking to one another. So I'm very grateful for this circle.
I'm going to be mindful of time. Thank you so much, Ms. Dorothy. There is another Dorothy James present. Do you have a quick question?
There's several Dorothy James.
I'm Dorothy James's friend. She sent me her link. I'm Sonia Jackson, and I came late, but I'm appreciating hearing everything that I'm hearing now. And I just wanted to contribute one little piece of information that sometimes also gets overlooked, is that we all need to make sure we have a will of some sort or some sort of trust, so that we can make sure that the people that may need to give us care, like the lady introduced her, the book that she got on Amazon that I wrote down about the peace of mind planner, is to have a formalized will that has been witnessed and all of that, because there are certain things that we could help along, like the idea of, if we have a car and something happens to us, yes, the person who is next in line can take care of the car, but they can't legally drive it. They can't do anything with it until it transfers. And if it had been taken care of in a will, it could have been handled much easier. So there's things that can help us, that can help others if we help ourselves by taking care of certain types of businesses. So, and the rules are different across the country. So it would behoove us to look into some of the simple things like getting a will for ourselves.
Thank you for that. I am going to pass this over now to our editor, Ms. Gloria Reese, who's going to close us out, I believe.
Yes, I will close this out. Zawadi had a quick question. Is it a quick question, Zawadi?
It's not a question as much as it's a comment, and it is quick. I caretake my aunt who was in a partnership for 40 plus years, and her partner thought he was doing the right thing by adding her name to accounts and on and on and on, but he neglected to update the will because he wanted his daughter to look at it. And I'm finding out now that that will was never signed and notarized. So it's a battle. It's a battle for me sometimes in taking care of her and dealing with all of the moving parts and pieces and her attorney and on and on. And I think somebody said earlier, just doing one thing or just consistently doing things is doing something. And that really helped me so much because I'm feeling a lot of guilt and, you know, on and on, going through the Medicare process and, you know, yeah. So I do appreciate this room. I thank Shimoda for inviting me. And I thank you, sisters.
Thank you for being
All
here.
right.
Gloria Reese, where are you at?
Sorry, I
Okay.
had to go take care of my mother for a moment.
Look at that, real life.
Yeah, really. So, but I will say this has been so wonderful. It's been so inspiring. It has certainly, wow, I don't know, it's hard to even put words to it. When I started the book, certainly it was part of my journey and me being able to process, but I also wanted to help other people see that, you know, the journey is not theirs alone. But then it's more impactful even than I thought it would be. So I thank all of you for sharing these stories, and I thank you that this has turned into a healing circle. And I'm glad that people were able to come in and express themselves, to get information, to share information. And wow, don't we need to do it again or something? It certainly needs to be expanded on. So I just want to thank everyone. Our time has passed, but I want to thank all of the contributors, everyone who came in to support us, and I thank everyone who made comments. So I don't know, I just have to exhale. Thank you so much, LaTanya, for being the moderator for this. You did an excellent job, as I knew you would. I told you I knew this phenomenal woman who could handle moderating this, and you were that phenomenal woman. So thank you. Thank you, everybody. I greatly appreciate it.